right standards and right education system.
I'm the former Frank Keating.
Of the Northwest Pass, we really need somebody different.
Your career, you're used to winning. Life, it was everything to us. 7 or 8 weeks of two-a-days.
They really made me appreciate
We're allowed to win.
it means coming in and we'll be shooting the whole time.
Let's go back real quick to the Enid Walk of Fame.
Of course, we have training in confined space.
Should have been maybe a little more.
A good safety tip on that, Stephen.
Putting a hat on and getting out there and doing the job.
Television model that you watched growing up.
Houston, this is the International Space Station.
City Connections begins right now.
Hello and welcome to City Connections. I'm Steve Keim. Thank you for joining us today. Really looking forward to our special guest today. Oftentimes our guest has a very special connection to Enid, to me, or to ETN. And our guest today is the founding CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow. And we'll be talking about Oklahoma Tomorrow in just a few moments. Our special guest worked 9 years for Governor Bill Anatoly of the Chickasaw Nation. You're familiar with that. And he also served as a senior advisor to Representative Ernest Istook. Our guest is the founding president of Downtown OKC, and we may talk about what Downtown OKC is all about. And our guest was appointed twice by Governor Mary Fallin to serve on the Oklahoma City Community College Board of Regents. And with all of that and all of his spare time, he has 2 degrees, a degree from Southern Nazarene University, and then he has his master's from UCO in public administration. So would you join me today, or welcome to City Connections today, Devery Youngblood. Devery, good
to see you again, Steve.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Our connection goes back, I won't say 100 years, but it goes back a long way. But anyway, we've been involved in Rotary Club, in various Rotary Clubs here in the state and in other entities as well. So welcome to Enid. Devery, appreciate you being here. Right off the bat, and as folks are watching the show, they see the logo behind us, and they may have heard of Oklahoma Tomorrow, but they don't have a clue. That's a nice phrase, but what does it mean?
Well, we're fairly new. We're a statewide advocacy organization. We have been fortunate to attract people like Burt Mackey to come and guide us as to what we need to do, because we realize that we're all getting kind of tired of being 49th at everything economically. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but the single biggest reason that we've seen is the fact that we are not producing enough college graduates in key areas. We have 18,000 open jobs in Oklahoma that could really define our economy and make it better, that can't be filled for one reason only: we cannot produce college graduates for those jobs. And so our organization is intent on trying to solve those things behind that problem so that we can correct it.
We'll talk a little bit more in our interview about the job market and these 18,000 jobs here in just a few moments. That is Oklahoma Tomorrow. You're the CEO, so your role is what?
Well, again, this wonderful board I have gives me a lot of great direction. What I've been able to do so far is try to be the advocate, the person who goes out and educates, get an opportunity to do things like this, to help people understand that the problem is already here with us. It's not just about the future. We're seeing right now that at Tinker Air Force Base, the largest employer in the state, the commanding officer is telling us that he could hire every single engineering graduate we produce in the state next year and still have empty chairs at Tinker. That ought to scare us, because that work will go somewhere else, as we certainly know in Enid with all the work you all have done with BRAC through the years, with Vance. That work will go elsewhere if you can't produce what you need, and we have to produce the college graduates for things like that now, much less for our future. And my job is to go out and help make that case.
Devery, that's an interesting statistic that you just shared with me, and I'm sure there's going to be more numbers that you share a little bit later on in our interview that, wow, I haven't heard that. Why is that the case of we're just now kind of hearing this? Many of us feel like we're plugged into the state and our, the economic world that we're in, but this is impressive, not so good, but impressive numbers. Why are we not getting this information out there?
Well,
or is it out there and we just not paying attention?
I'm not sure. That's a great question. I think what's happened is we've been talking about this new knowledge economy that we're all going to be operating in, and the fact is it's arrived. And so today, where you used to be able to come out and back when we were kids, you could come out of high school and you'd have a lot of different jobs. Today, a high school diploma will only qualify you for 1/3 of the jobs out there. It's already happening. And so in places like Tinker, but also in the private sector, we have a much greater need now for engineers than we ever have before, or for people who understand information technology systems, financial analysts, managers of all kinds, especially nurses. We are really having a huge problem in the healthcare world. All those things have caught up to us just about the time we have a downturn with oil and gas, and it's made our problem even worse in Oklahoma.
You talked about Oklahoma's ranking of 49th. So many times we see health reports, we're 47, 48. We may be in another category, that 48, 49 category. Was there more than just, well, let me ask you this, the contributing factor for these low rankings, can you summarize it, or is it just so multifaceted that Oklahoma continues to be down there?
We would certainly not want to oversell the fact. There's always multiple answers to these things. The reason we say the single biggest one being that we're not producing the college graduates is that you can go in with empirical data and show that the states that produce more college graduates do much better in all those categories. They are healthier, they make more income, they have better outcomes in all of these areas that we get frustrated with. Mental health is stronger, their health care systems are stronger, and so there's a correlation there. And so accordingly, we are at the bottom of states in terms of the number of graduates that we produce, and a lot of these same problems go along with that. And so this, we think, is one of the biggest things that we can change. Some of those other factors we may or may not be able to change. This one we can.
Sure. Our special guest today on City Connections is Devery Youngblood. Devery is the CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow, and it's all about education, and we appreciate Devery being here today to talk about a topic that is very important to all of us, is education. And Devery, you sent to me in preparation for our interview some bullet points to discuss today, but you also included some information about the objectives of Oklahoma Tomorrow: to communicate the need for more college graduates, which we're doing at this very moment, research current conditions and promote critical jobs, and then to organize advocates to broaden the message. Tell us a little bit about these objectives and how are you making these three happen?
Well, obviously, just the information education side is exactly what you said. We find that people, like all of us, were a little bit surprised to hear some of these statistics. Yes. And when we brought this incredible board together with people like Bert and others, even some of them who have been very actively involved in building things like the Enid campus here, said, wow, I didn't realize it had come to that point this quickly. And so that's very important to get the message out, because a lot of people are surprised about it. But it's also important that we understand what the real problems are. And when we can go in and document 18,000 jobs that cannot be filled, that are economy-changing jobs, there's a much bigger list, by the way, but those 18,000 are the ones that really can drive an economy into that new knowledge economy. That's something we need to share, and then we need to work backwards to figure out how do we fill those. And then the last part is simply, we can't do it on our own. If only our organization is the one saying this, we'll continue to go down the path that we're on. It's important to us to come to Enid and places like that, places that truly value their education systems like we have here on the Enid campus, and let them know that it's kind of up to you now. We've got to hear your voice. The legislators hear a lot of things, and they get a lot of pressure from special groups that want them to vote a certain way, and we shouldn't just assume that they'll naturally do this, because they also need to have this information. But as we get a chance to share it with them, and it comes from the home people, it makes a lot more impact. As we're
kind of wrapping up this first segment, Devery, tell us, where can people, as they're watching this interview right now, what's the website? Is it oklahomatomorrow.org?
Yes.
Okay, so
oklahomatomorrow.org, and you can go there. You can find out a lot of information about what we're doing right now. You can also sign up on there, and we'll try to keep you in touch with what we're doing and when some things might come up that are of importance.
Okay, very good. And is the list of the board of directors, I want to talk about the board of directors towards the end of our interview. Is that list of individuals?
It's on the board, and we want you to go look at that bunch. That's the group that really is making things happen for us.
Okay. Well, Devery, before our first break, let's go back to Tinker Air Force Base. With the connection to Vance here, we know the importance of education. We know the importance of having a base that is ready and prepared to help the United States in any fashion possible. But in the notes that I have here, loss of work, Tinker faces loss of work because of the lack of engineers, the computer specialists, and other college graduates. How big a problem is this? I mean, you outline this huge number. If it's not addressed, I guess is my question, what happens to to Tinker and Oklahoma?
Well, this is why I love being in Enid, because Enid understands this better than almost anybody, having been through what you have with Vance and the BRAC rounds in the past where we had to fight for these bases. We're the only state in America that didn't lose a base. And in fact, all 5 bases here grew. And we could see that undone. What happens is all of those things that we need for this new knowledge economy, we also need for the modern military. And they have to have those more sophisticated systems in place, and which means they have to have those graduates. So if it is not there, that work has to get done somewhere. So they will take it to another base somewhere else. And that's the kind of thing we've all fought to make sure didn't happen through years. And here we have this problem we didn't necessarily think about. It's kind of sneaking up on us, and it's going to cause us a lot of problems unless we specifically go out and address it.
We'll talk in just a few moments about new businesses and the challenges they have in facing to find new STEM workers. So we'll talk about that in just a moment. So again, thank you for being with us today on City Connections. My special guest, the CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow, Devery Youngblood. We'll be back with Devery right after this. Welcome back to City Connections. Thank you for joining us today. My special guest, the CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow, Devery Youngblood. Devery, we were talking a little bit about the aerospace industry, and you had some specific needs or numbers, in regarding the needs that Tinker Air Force Base had. But also one of the comments is that hospitals struggling to find competent, skilled individuals to fill those particular needs, especially for nurses, and then workers or businesses looking for the STEM, if you will, workers that are needed. Can you just kind of share with us where do we rate in this? How serious is this challenge?
Yeah, let's start with the aerospace side, because that's one of the great hopes we have of diversifying our economy in Oklahoma and not being completely reliant upon oil and gas. And we were all very excited to see the consolidation that Boeing made into central Oklahoma in the last few years, which benefits everyone. You can drive easily from Enid to work at Boeing. And, but they need 500 engineers to make that really work over time. Where are they going to come from? Right now, we're not producing quite at that level. The other thing, the reason that matters is with the Tinker problem, Tinker's only going to get their engineers after Boeing and Nordam and Tulsa and all these others have their shot at them, because those private sector jobs are going to pay more. And so that's an important, we have to really produce a bunch there. On the health, go ahead, sorry.
That really puts it in layman's terms that you're saying right there, because everybody in the state pretty much said, yay, Boeing's coming to Oklahoma. But then the second part of that comment is, okay, now how do we find all the engineers to do this? And I think most of us focused on the first half of that statement, that we're thrilled that Boeing has arrived in Oklahoma City and will continue to have its statewide presence. But sometimes we lose sight of the fact that where are those engineers coming from?
And we have a really perfect example in there that you understand very well from how these private businesses have to operate. They consolidated their operations from Long Beach to Oklahoma because they could not ever get the favorable tax treatment they needed in California. They will move those jobs from Oklahoma to somewhere else if they can't get the skilled workforce they need here. And so that's why you have got to be on top of those things and address them as they come up. It's beyond aerospace. You mentioned healthcare as well. There's 229 openings for nurses at Integris only, and all that need to have a college degree, and that number is proportional for every hospital in the state of Oklahoma. Now that's a national problem. We have a national problem with having nurses, but we're exacerbating it greatly in Oklahoma because of our funding structure. Every single nursing program in our colleges in the state of Oklahoma is at capacity and is turning away qualified candidates every single semester. We could be solving this problem a whole lot better than we are.
And then with the STEM, looking for the STEM qualification, if you will, same challenge, right?
It's the same challenge on everything. If you think about it, the jobs we want the most, these STEM jobs, they cost the most to get. For nurses, you can only have 8 in a clinical laboratory. So you have the nursing professor, if you can hire them out of the private sector at all, costs twice as much as a professor. Same with engineering. You need these very complicated laboratories because these potential engineers, while they're in school, have to be able to test these things. You think of the IT professionals, the kinds of computers and software they have to work in so that they're capable of going into the workforce. And all those things cost a lot more money. The professors cost a lot more money. But those are the jobs that are going to turn around Oklahoma. That's what gets us to stop being 49th at everything. So it's a very important investment to make. And we're not even making the investment. We're not even keeping up with the most basic things right now.
Well, you've been very articulate and very just descriptive of the way the current picture, the snapshot, the way things look. Let's shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit on the business side of things. And in your notes that you were presented to me, it said Moody's warned Oklahoma's lack of financial commitment to colleges could lead to a bond credit downgrade. Again, in layman's terms, Devery, what does that mean?
Well, first of all, we had a rating service just recently that did downgrade Oklahoma, and Moody's has got us on negative watch as well. What that means is it's going to cost us a lot more for all those bonds and things that we have out there. It's just more expensive to fund our state operations, because you do have to have a certain amount of borrowed money, and should, frankly, in this environment, to operate a state of this size. All of that just becomes a whole lot more expensive for us. So it really is a case of you pay it now or you pay it later. Which way do you want to do it? And when you pay it now, you end up with people coming out of this system who are much more productive. They're able to put that great Oklahoma work ethic and marry it to the fact that they have these skills and really produce a much better and stronger life for themselves and for their family and for future generations as well.
There's certainly a visit with a lot of numbers that we're throwing at individuals, and another number to share, which is rather impressive, or impressionable, I should say, that the system that trains and graduates these type of workers is underfunded for the past years. And one number that was supplied to me was a 16% cut, equaling $157 million. Tell us about this 16% cut.
Well, that was last year alone. And you know, we all understand where we are with the downturn that's taken place with oil and gas. But the problem at the state capitol is very real, and they've got a lot to resolve there. But most state agencies took a 10% cut. There seems to be this belief that somehow you can cut the higher education system and it won't have nearly the impact. Or as some of them say, well, you can always raise tuition. Raising tuition is a hidden tax. It simply transfers the burden from the shared responsibility that we all want to bear to make our state better, and saying that, well, you families and you students, you're going to have to do more of it. And who it hits disproportionately are the working poor and the middle class. The rich are going to always go to school because the rich go to school. The poor are typically going to have federal programs like Pell Grants. It's the working poor and the middle class who bear the brunt when we say, somewhat cavalierly, well, we can cut you so we'll just raise tuition on the other end. We're starting to price those folks out of a college education, which denies them access to this great growth that we want to see for our state.
There's another number, Devery, that you shared with me, that the state is currently investing $4 million less than we did in 2001. Now, I think we're up to 2017.
Yes.
So that's quite a span of 16 plus years, and that we're investing $4 million less. I guess that number really helps paint a true picture of where we're at in this funding.
Yeah, and I think sometimes in our conservative environment, and that's all of us. I mean, even Democrats in Oklahoma are very conservative. And I think sometimes we look at it and we think, well, that's just, you know, the bureaucracy's big. You should surely be able to handle that. Are your fixed costs the same right now? Is your utility bills, or your health insurance, or your cost for employees, are all those things the same now that they were the year Bill Clinton handed the White House to George W. Bush? There's no way. All of that has risen dramatically. And yet our colleges and universities are supposed to somehow just absorb that and turn out graduates and drive our economy forward. And so by operating at that low, it's not just about the money. It's about we're not putting the right things in place so that the system can operate and give us the better future that all of us in Oklahoma want.
Devery, you've made the journey to Enid, Oklahoma today, to the Enid Television Network studios to talk about Oklahoma Tomorrow, to raise the awareness of this. What else are you doing as CEO to raise the awareness that this is serious, folks? We've got to do something about it.
We're trying anywhere anybody will listen to us to talk. And we're trying to visit it also with a few of our legislators. We did not form this organization to be a legislative bashing organization, and we don't. They have an incredibly difficult challenge in front of them right now. And I don't really necessarily know what to do about a revenue failure right now where you don't have enough and your back is against the wall. I do know that if we don't start changing for the future, this is going to become a continual problem for us. So we want, as much as anything, to talk to those decision makers, both from the private sector who know these legislators and who own and run these communities like Enid, to say to them, hey guys, we're going to still be running Enid long after your term is done, so this is important to us. We want them to understand so that they can talk to the legislators and help them know that this isn't just about budgets and bureaucracy. This isn't just about personalities and politics. This has a very real impact on the business community, on the military operations like at Tinker and Vance and other places, and that we can either fix this problem or we can make things even worse than they are today, which is pretty tough.
We certainly appreciate you coming up to ETN today to talk with us. And we have visited with Governor Walters, Governor Keating, I mean, the list goes on, Governor Nye, and we've had astronauts, we've had NFL players, we've had just really a variety of individuals on City Connections. And so you're in that, you're in that fraternity, if we can use that word. But Devery, we run these programs on our public access station here in Enid. And of course, they have another life when they get on YouTube and go around the globe. But our visit today will air for the next 2, 3, maybe even more months. And so people are going to see this message and, or they're going to absorb these numbers a little more. Since this is going to air from, say, March to June or something like that, what is a message that you want to convey, knowing that you've got more than just one shot here, but you're going to be able to talk for another couple months? What's the message you want to be consistent or convey with?
Well, the first thing I want to say is thank you for what you're doing. And it's so important to have these kinds of outlets to educate people and for people to have a chance to understand what is really going on. Interestingly, this is running at the very time the legislature is in session. They go all the way till the end of May.
Right.
And again, they have very difficult decisions to make, and almost all of them revolve around the budget. We have a $900 million budget hole this year. It was $1.3 million budget hole last year. It was $600 million the year before that and $400 million the year before that. So the last 4 years, we've gone dramatically backwards in our state. So they do have a very difficult job. But right now, what we want people to know is we're eating our seed corn. We're sacrificing our future on the altar of the latest crisis. And if you don't invest in that future and you are just trying to get by, you're just going to continue to have more of those kinds of years. It's very important that we invest for the future. It's very important that we understand that it's not just for some nebulous future way out there. It's about producing the people we need in some of these critical positions quickly. And since more than almost half of our students in Oklahoma are in our 2-year schools like NOC, you can go from absolutely nowhere to having a college degree and a career in 2 years. That's an incredibly good system, but that's the system we're defunding right now. And most of the people who are going to Northwestern and NOC and schools like that are the first generation in their family to go to school. That was my story as well. And with those incredible students, you're not just changing a life, you're changing a generation. You're changing the people who come after them. That's how you raise the state. But that's what we're defunding. So over this time period that this is running, and we have this great service that you're providing, I hope people will understand that these legislators need to hear from you. They need to please you. They're here to serve you. And if this is important to you, you've got to help them understand that this is killing our future and that we need their help. And tell them to come talk to me, or I'll go and see any one of them, or anybody has somebody they need that they know, I'd be happy to go and visit with them.
Or do all of the above.
All of the above.
Okay. Our special guest today on City Connections, the CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow, Devery Youngblood. We've got a question or two in regard to Burt Mackey. Why does Burt keep coming up in this conversation? We'll answer that right after this. Thanks for staying with us today on City Connections. Thank you for staying with us today on City Connections. Again, our special guest, Devery Youngblood, who is the CEO of Oklahoma Tomorrow. And it's all about education, it's all about students, and it's all about the future of Oklahoma. We had mentioned Burt Mackey. You mentioned Burt and his name in the Enid community, and that's kind of synonymous with business and just someone who's just a powerful voice in the community. Burt serves on the board, along with others, on Oklahoma Tomorrow. Can you tell us a little bit more of the individuals that I've noticed, Devery, they're across the state?
And that's important. We wanted to get a board from that really represented the entire state, and it wasn't just Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Sure.
What's nice about this board, it has a very distinct Northwest Oklahoma feel to it. The whole organization does. Bruce Benbrook from Woodward, who a lot of folks know, is our chairman. Burt Mackey is our vice chair. And I grew up in Laverne, so I mean we've got Northwest Oklahoma going here. Those board members are incredible because of the past that they've had, the things they've already done for Oklahoma that give us so much insight. Burt is a great example. Wouldn't have this Enid campus here without Burt leading people and helping them understand what needed to happen and making sure that you had NOC and Northwestern able to be here and provide this incredible resource for people. And the feedback he's given to me and the help to really understand where we're going and where we need to go. We have people on that board who, frankly, people take their call when they call them and talk to them. And they understand that these are folks who've been investing in the Oklahoma economy for a long time, that they know how to move things forward, and that they have absolutely no interest in doing anything but moving Oklahoma forward. It actually costs them to be on this board. It really does. Yeah. And so we're really thrilled with that board. We hope people will go on our website and look at all of the names. It's an impressive group. We're going to be kind of fleshing it out. We got a couple of holes geographically we want to fill. But if you go and look at that group, I think you'll realize we're serious about this and we can get something done.
Devery, we're running out of time today, but I want you to share a story we were mentioning off camera about, it's all about students.
I think we've taken our eye off the student. I think when you talk to people at the legislature and other places, it's too much about bureaucracy. And I, today, and as this is running, we'll be able to feature 3 students from here who are both at NOC and Northwestern, whose lives have been changed. 2 of them are first-generation college students. The 2 of them, having gone through, literally would not have been able to go anywhere else except here because of this campus being here in Enid, because NOC being a wonderful way to get all of your basic education and do things so much less expensively, because of the unique resources that Northwestern has and the fact that those 2 working together means you can be taking classes at NOC and it counts toward Northwestern. Those are great systems that are in place. The system really does work. Those 2 first-generation students actually inspired their own moms to go back and to go get their degrees. So they're really changing generations, going actually both directions. The other one grew up always wanting to go to college, always knew she was going to, but she had to come back to Enid because her mother became ill, and sadly her mother passed away. But in that, she realized that what she was doing down at OU didn't fit her. And so she came up here, and she's now a special education teacher at Enid High School. And not only that, what she's doing in the community is off the charts, the things she's involved in that makes the community a better place. When you invest in students and when you look at their story, you realize it's the students that are going to lift the state. It's not about a bureaucracy. It's about real people changing their lives, changing the lives of the people around them that they love. And in return, they lift an entire state and we're no longer 49th at everything. That's what we have to fund. That's what we got to make sure we take care of, and they'll lead the way.
And the website, oklahomatomorrow.org.
Yes, sir.
And Devery, to get in touch with you, for you to come speak to a service club or to any group, what's the number? What's a good way to reach you? And we'll put that on the screen.
You can request it right through the website, or I have the easiest email in the world. It's devery@oklahomatomorrow.org. And I know Devery is a little different, but it's the word every with a D in front of it, so it's not all that bad.
Very good. This has been very informative.
Great to see you again, Steve.
Good to see you. Thanks for being with us on City Connections. And thank you for being with us on City Connections. As I'm listening to Devery, I'm reminded that my dear mom from Perry, Oklahoma, Bessie, would say this: Steve, school is never out. She would tell me that. And then she would always say, you know, the grass may be greener on the other side, Devery, but the water bill is higher too. And I've always remembered the fact that to get somewhere, it's going to have to cost us a little more to do that. So that's food for thought today. Anyway, Devery, again, thank you for being with us today, and thank you for joining us on City Connections. I'm Steve Keim. Until next time, make it a great day.